In 1935, the Short Scion was in production, and Short Brothers looked into building a larger derivative. They found the airliner market particularly difficult to break into. De Havilland had the lion's share, with a range of economical and not expensive flying machines that suited most airline needs of the time. As well as building airframes, de Havilland built their own engines, all based on the Gypsy series, and due to this were able to control costs far more so than buying engines from a third party. Short Brothers owned a controlling interest in Pobjoy air motors, but their range was limited to engines of little over 100 horsepower. Short Brothers' resulting design used 4 Pobjoy engines, and due to their prominence in the flying boat market, the aircraft would be available as a land plane or seaplane. First customer for the new aircraft was the Irrawaddy Flotilla Company, Scottish-owned but based in Rangoon. The company operated 600 paddle steamers and barges on river transport operations throughout Burma, and already used a de Havilland Foxmoth for communication duties. The new aircraft, named the Scion Senior, was built through the summer of 1935. Constructionally it was very close to the Scion, although the payload area was lengthened by 7 feet and the fuselage widened by 15 inches to accommodate up to 3 seats abreast. On the 22nd of October 1935, the aircraft was launched from the Short factory direct into the adjacent River Medway, and John Lancaster Parker, chief test pilot, carried out the first flight. By mid-November, Parker had flown 6 hours in the aircraft, and it was delivered to RF Felixstowe for Air Ministry approval. By the time the C of A was issued in January 1936, the aircraft was already in the hold of a steamer on its way to Rangoon. Officially, it had been British registered for the trials, but it never wore those markings. This photograph of the paddle steamer Prince of Wales was taken from a Scion Senior over the River Irrawaddy. Pleased with the first aircraft, soon a second Scion Senior was on its way to Rangoon. It was near identical to the first, the only difference being a small ventral fin to aid stability. Here it's being launched after reassembly in Rangoon. The pilots for the Irrawaddy Flotilla Company were all on secondment from Imperial Airways. This is Eugene Esmond. He carried out the test flight. Esmond had previously served in the Royal Air Force and the Fleet Air Arm. The outbreak of the Second World War, he rejoined the Fleet Air Arm as a lieutenant commander. In February 1942, Esmond led a flight of 6 Swordfish torpedo bombers against the 3 German battleships making what was known as the Channel Dash. None of the Swordfish returned. Esmond was awarded a posthumous Victoria Cross. In time, the Irrawaddy Flotilla Company ordered a third Scion Senior, although it didn't last long, being written off in an accident in June 1937. The only Scion Senior to be operated solely as a land plane was this one. Registered to Short Brothers in February 1936, it was retained by them for demonstration and charter work until the end of 1938. In September 1937, the Scion Senior was entered in the King's Cup Air Race, being the largest of the 38 starters. After a 1,400-mile, 2-day race, the Scion Senior was placed 7th overall. The winner was Charles Gardner, flying a Percival Mughal. In December 1938, this aircraft was sold to the Iraq Petroleum Company and ferried to the Middle East. It survived until 1943. This Scion Senior, on floats, was to be delivered to West of Scotland Airways. However, plans fell through. It was retained by the manufacturer until sold to Elder Colonial Airways. Elder Colonial Airways operated in West Africa, and the Scion Senior was used for a route from Freetown to Bathurst, now Banjul. Unfortunately, it was hit by a passing steamer at its mooring in 1939 and sunk. This Scion Senior was designated a Scion Senior FB, or flying boat. It was a cancelled airline order, subsequently purchased by the Air Ministry for experimental work. Short Brothers built the central float and outriggers as a half-scale model of the Sunderland flying boat. The Scion FB was later transferred to the marine aircraft experimental establishment at Helensburgh in Scotland. It was written off in early 1944, the last Scion Senior to survive. A total of 6 short Scion Seniors were built, and the type can't be considered a commercial success. However, it did contribute a lot of aerodynamic data subsequently used on the C-class flying boats. The use of a scale model for aerodynamic test purposes was so successful that subsequently Short Brothers built another 4-engine Pobjoy machine. The Short M4, also known as the S-31, was a half-scale model of what would become the Short Stirling bomber. The Short Stirling was the RAF's first 4-engine bomber. It entered service in 1940, and 2,371 were built. Thank you for watching.